Congressman, welcome to the program here. You condemned California Governor Gavin Newsom for wanting to redistrict mid-decade there in your state to abolish the independent commission that your state has set up. You called it a threat to democracy, but this whole thing started in Texas with the Republican governor there wanting to redistrict mid-decade. Is the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, is he too a threat to democracy, you think?
Well, I've been very clear that I don't like what's happening in Texas either. Naturally, I'm more concerned about my own state of California. And it is true that what's happening in California is much worse than what's happening anywhere else. Because in our state, we actually have an independent Citizens Redistricting Commission that was established by the voters. And we have a constitutional rule that you're only allowed to redistrict once a decade after the census. And the governor is seeking to blow all of that up, to overthrow the will of voters, to abolish the commission, and to seize the power to draw district lines for himself and put it back in the hands of the politicians that the voters took it away from. So I think that is what I mean by a threat to democracy, because the governor is explicitly violating the will of the voters.
Your legislation, though, is nationally. Why not just let the state assembly handle that in California? It seems like you want to, make this affected nationwide, though, right?
Well, that's the authority of Congress. Is under Article 1 of the Elections Clause, we can regulate the time, place, and manner of elections. And I do think that to the extent that this ignites a nationwide redistricting war, where you have state after state after state upending their district lines, I think that's going to create chaos. It's going to be a big distraction from the important issues that we have to worry about as a country. I don't think it's good for representative government. So I think this bill is an opportunity to stop the corrupt scheme that the governor is attempting in my own state, and to assure that as a country, we don't continue to go on this road.
Let me ask you a little bit more about that. What's happening in Texas has really kind of alarmed folks nationwide. California, Democratic states, California, Maryland, Illinois, New York, all talking about potentially redistricting as well here too. This wouldn't really end. It could happen every 2 years, couldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So is that the road we're going to go down, where you have a different member of Congress every 2 years in your district, or your neighbor has a different member of Congress than you do, or you're representing a certain part of your state one year and then another part of your state the next? That's why in Texas, the Republicans and the congressional delegation there, they don't like the idea that they're suddenly going to have their district upended in an unscheduled redistricting, because they've gotten to know the community they represent. They've gotten to know the people and the issues that matter to them, and they don't want to see big parts of their district suddenly tossed out. And so that's why I think that this is a bill that's going to get a lot of support on both sides of the aisle. Because this idea of upending district lines, in the middle of the decade or every 2 years or wherever this turns into, this is not something that is likely supported by elected members of Congress as well.
And I know you just filed your bill, but have you heard from any Texas Republicans about the legislation?
I've heard from quite a few people across the country on both sides of the aisle. We've gotten a lot of support about it, with a lot of support for the idea. I'm not sure that we've heard from anyone in the Texas delegation specifically, but we've had a lot of communication, so I can't tell you that for sure at this point. But I think that, if and when this comes to a vote, we're going to see a lot of support for it.
Yeah, I heard you say the other day that you said that the Speaker, Mike Johnson, needs to step up and show some leadership to bring this redistricting chaos to an end here. But, if Texas redistricts, that could potentially give, Speaker Johnson and you and your party 5 more seats. So why would the Speaker want to even bring your legislation to the floor?
Well, I think number one, redistricting should not be something that's looked at through a partisan lens. In California, we put it in the hands of an independent commission that actually goes around the state, gets feedback from different communities, and then the commissioners are citizens who aren't allowed to run for public office, and they're forbidden from considering politics at all in the process. But at the end of the day, what we've seen now is there's this attempt by California to wipe out several seats, and then if you have this tit for tat that goes on, I mean, who even knows at the end of the day what the overall partisan impact is going to be? It's kind of like this trench warfare where maybe it all kind of cancels it out, but then at what cost to the country, to the relationship between members and their constituents, to the time that could have been spent on much more important issues.
Last question here for you too. You said you wanted to get to a system where gerrymandering doesn't exist anymore. I think a lot of people would probably like that as well too. But gerrymandering, as you know, has been around for more than 200 years. What would it ever take to get to that point where the country moves on beyond that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, one idea I have is that we have a couple of issues with elections where there's actually quite a bit of public support in one direction. So the public doesn't like gerrymandering. I think there's widespread public support for ending gerrymandering and having a fair drawing of district lines. And then there's this issue of voter ID. There's broad public support for requiring voter ID in every state in elections. And so one of those has been more of a priority for Republicans. One of them is more of a priority for Democrats. I think that there's maybe a deal that can be reached. And I've been having some conversations with people on both sides of the aisle about it. By at least the time we do this again in the next regularly scheduled redistricting, why don't we change those two things so that we get rid of gerrymandering, we have voter ID, and we could have a lot fairer elections going forward.
Congressman, we wish you luck. Thanks for the time.
Of course, thanks for having me.